Good morning, my name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to look at the weekly energies with today's Monday's Musings on the 3rd of November 2025. I almost felt quite confused with the year then, quite confused with the times that we are in. It was not quite where I was planning this video to go, but it feels very important to stay open to the guidance and the wisdom that wants to come through this week in however that takes form. To be more perceptive. I've left my door open to my room, which is not something I normally do, and I'm probably, for want of a better phrase, asking for it because I have two kittens that are very mischievous in the room next door. And I want to fit into that actually, the terminology of asking for it if we are open. Looking at what we believe we somehow deserve or attract, actually, it's attract. By being vulnerable, by being open to change, to our own perception, to the world around us. It's important to recognize the difference between deserving and attraction. How are we going to say this? At the moment in the collective, there are some very shadow-like experiences rising to the surface. This goes beyond what we deserve, goes beyond what we attract, to the need to recognize what we are building upon. From where? I'm not going to get into the very restricted, limited view of manifestation that suggests we attract things that we need or we attract things that we believe we deserve. What I'm doing this week is to encourage a deeper acknowledgement of that based on how we view that. Do we believe that actually we get what we deserve? Do we believe actually that like attracts like? Do we believe that manifestation itself, thank you, that we as creators are that limited? And more importantly this week, subconsciously, where have we been building upon that within the darker aspects of our psyche without realizing? So an example, I'm one of those really annoying people that will find a reason behind everything because I prefer to work with what is put in front of me than to accept there are things I can't change. But I also, on the more positive note, like the empowerment of knowing that we can create from the circumstances we've been given. However, I'm acutely aware that that can take me down a loophole of finding reason when there is none, and in that holding on to patterns that are ready to be released. And underneath it all this week, even though the energy feels incredibly heavy, incredibly repetitive, incredibly not dark night of the soul as such, collectively and individually, but a knee-jerk reaction to believe that it's that. Underneath it all is a wonderful opportunity to release old patterns by recognizing them within our cellular core first. There's been a lot of information the last few weeks about extra light coming in, extra light codes coming in, regardless what you want to link it to, whether that's the thinning of the veil and ancestral support, whether that's the turn of the seasons, whether that's objects in our sky. It doesn't matter what you link it to, or the resonance of the earth, or the new earth, or all these things that are going on. The understanding collectively, right or wrong, the interpretation, thank you, there's a difference between understanding and interpretation. The interpretation collectively has been that there's extra light, and yet it has stopped there. With extra light we get extra shadows. That is physics. But the shadows that are rising are an opportunity to really see where the depth of them comes from. That is down to the individual. There's going to be a lot this week with the full moon in Taurus. There's going to be a lot this week that encourages us to look at what abundance means, that encourages us to look at what love is to us, with Taurus and Venus being its ruler, what love is to us, how open we are to that, how vulnerable that makes us feel. There's going to be a lot this week on how safe how safe we feel in our situations. The kittens are at it. How safe we feel in our situations, but moreover, how safe we are in ourselves. That safety, yes, can come from what we do, our family, our circumstances, but it can also come from the simplistic, even though it feels really intense and confusing, the simplistic, sheer alignment with where we are. Sheer acceptance of core values that may have, hurts my ear, that may have been built upon without our conscious knowing. This isn't about judgment, guys. This isn't about right or wrong. This is simply awareness. Awareness is the most empowering gift that we have. The ability to perceive things, to truly perceive things, and to truly perceive ourselves and acknowledge where we're perceiving these things from as a result. Why is that important? Well, it only is if you think it is, to be honest. We're getting to the point, not just the latter half of the year, I think the latter half or the you know, getting further into my own placement here on the earth, and also with the things that have changed, we are getting to a point where it's either your thing or it isn't. This week in particular, you either resonate or you don't, you know, and that can be with healing. You may feel as if you've come to a point where you don't want to do anymore, and that, if that works for you, fine. Relationships, your current work situations, all of these things, do they bring abundance? Do they bring safety? Do they bring love? Do they bring you back to who you are on all levels, all multifaceted perspectives? Or are you having to wear a mask for one and something different for another? It's not about, or it's not just about authenticity. It's not just about manifestation, but it is about our perception. It's absolutely beautiful. This morning I ended up finding myself listening to a speech by Alan Watts, The Danger of Seeing, which I really, really, really recommend listening to. And throughout it all, it wasn't really anything I didn't know. There were movements and emotions within my body when I listened to this truth, and that's the key this week. It's not things that we don't already know, and with that there can come a sense of sadness. Last night I dreamt of my mother passing again, and it wasn't anything that I didn't know, but there was another level of sadness that I'm now ready to embrace around that and our relationship. It's not stuff that we don't already know. It's about looking at how what we are understanding is affecting our interpretation and therefore our perception. Yes, there's going to be a lot on the collective. You know, the full moon. Okay, so the full moon occurs on bonfire night. For those that know the history of bonfire night, it's when Parliament was attempted to be overthrown, and yes, that is going on in the collective. That's not coincidence, so don't be surprised if we start to see things around that, you know. And for some will say it's a long time coming. Those that are in power have been triggering us because they have not been doing their part, and it's also an invitation to look at where we may not be also. Around the full moon, around the 5th, yes, we could expect things to start to shift and change. These things aren't coincidental. However, bonfire also comes from bone fire. It comes from the, without being too graphic, the cattle that will not survive the winter. The cattle that we cannot feed in the old days being slaughtered, eaten and placed upon the fire, their bones placed upon the fire. But there's a deeper symbolism underneath this week. That does not sustain us has to be transmuted. It has to be taken to the fire. It has to be brought back to the light that it once was. Including our own skeletal system. On a physical level, we may feel that my hips are starting already, my sciatica is returning already, because I've been putting off some stretches and some yoga and exercise for a long time. And this putting off, it isn't about putting off the yoga, it's about putting off what my body needs. And that's an old story that runs through my ancestry that isn't sustainable anymore. It used to help build courage and resilience and strength and, you know, the beauty of supporting others, but now is no longer a medicine that I want to take forward or hand down. And that's the other opportunity this week. What systems are we going to place upon the bonfire? What bones of our own being no longer support our soul? Yes, there's a lot going on collectively that's going to make us feel unsafe. Yes, there's a lot going on collectively that's going to make us question the love of the world and the love even that we have for the world and situations, because it's hard. It's hard to see the light in the darkness. It's hard to love openly when we can be hurt or when things are so vulnerable. It's hard to leave that door open. It's hard to be so raw in the world. And we must do it at a level that's right for us. I'm not suggesting you overshare. I'm not suggesting you put yourself in dangerous situations. But recognize what it is that's making it actually difficult. Are you in danger? Is it unsafe? Or is it your perception of it? And where does that come from? Where does that come from? Is there anything else to look at? I think that will do. And don't take on too much this week. Really quite important not to take on too much, because that in itself can leave us feeling overwhelmed, and that in itself can come from a place of not being able to say no. November is really important for the sacred no. And if you struggle with that, I know I personally struggle with that, look at the sacred yes underneath. It's not about what you're saying no to, it's about what you're saying yes to. So sometimes it can be really hard to see a different perspective. It's not about ignoring what's in front of us, but it's about what we're choosing to focus on, what we are saying yes to. See the collective as a fire, if you will. Okay, what are you feeding in that fire? What are you adding to in that fire? And again, guys, this does not involve any judgment. This isn't even about manifestation or like attracts like or laws of attraction. This is so beyond this now. It's responsibility. Oh, and I'm going to leave that there because that's quite uncomfortable, because I can feel that shifting within me as well. Areas where, yeah, I need to grow up to and take accountability as well. And that can be uncomfortable. It doesn't make it any less more relevant to where we're at collectively. What I'm seeing, I wrote a newsletter this month. For every month I'll write a newsletter, and this one was called The Tale of Two Cities. Well, it was a play on the novel by Charles Dickens, The Tale of Two Cities, and it was actually about my two kittens. So it was the tale of two kitties who were originally called Eve and Lilith. And the reason I was going to call them that, for me personally, I felt a real split in my own femininity deciding to rehome these kittens. I felt the more docile, placated version of myself, but also the darker, more shadow-like Lilith version of myself coming through as well. Long story short, they've both been named after Otorongo, which is the shadow in the west, because I don't feel that separation anymore. And what I'm getting at here is this week is an opportunity, it's probably till the end of the year, is an opportunity, or thank you, at least until the 21st, at least until the solstice, when the light returns. It's an opportunity to bring together those split aspects of ourselves in regards to the feminine, in regards to what we can feel, what we're capable of holding space for, in regards to what we see, what we intuitively know, and what we're creating as a result of that. Sometimes when we understand or try and rationalize or explain what is occurring, that more masculine-like energy can take over, and we lose the essence of the primal wisdom that is within it. Last week I spoke about intention and inner tension, or intuition and inner tuition, really looking at what's going on within us first before we start to try to explain or understand, thank you, interpret the environment around us. Because when we do that, we're taking responsibility. Please, 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 if you get a chance, I'll put a link to it. Look up Alan Watts' The Danger of Seeing, and recognize the stage that you're at. We're all seers in the making. We're all psychic. We're all empathic. We're all compassionate. We're all capable of seeing things. You know, it's not a special gift. Psychic is not a special gift for certain people, because we all feel, and it's based on intuition and extension of our senses. The sixth sense is our five senses enhanced. So recognize where you are at the stage of that in any given moment. For the most part, I like to consider myself more towards the seer energy because of the training that I've had in the Moon Psyche, but also the experiences of being able to hold space and just witness, which is irony in itself, just witness. But there are times when I see things that upset me, of course they do, and I lose sight of where I'm at, and that then affects what I'm able to perceive or bring to the situation, and that's the key. It's not just about what we see. It's about the responsibility of looking at what we create through what we see, because we're more aware of the energy that we're bringing to the situation. Okay, energies this week. There's something there about overthrowing Parliament as well, but it's more restoring balance to our own governing bodies as well. Yeah, around this full moon in Taurus. Okay, energies this week and how to best navigate them. It's important to tell you that I am reading from the Sacred She Tarot card book. The Sacred She Tarot, sorry, I picked up the guidebook, by Mahadeva Padma. This is the creator of the Osho Zen Tarot, which I'm a big fan of, and I know there are more shadow-like stories linked to all of that as well, but for me personally that doesn't affect my ability to interpret what is going on by using the cards, and that feels key as well. That feels quite important. There are negative things in this world. How, why, where does that impact our ability to work with them, to work alongside them, our own included? How do we perceive those shadow aspects? So yes, the Sacred She Tarot by Mahadeva Padma. Beautiful, beautiful tarot, which I've never worked with before, and the minor arcanas aren't very separate or clear, so I found that quite interesting, that it was difficult to differentiate between the major arcana and the minor arcana in this deck, the major aspects of life and the minor aspects of life, which is beautiful because it's such a thin veil. And the more we can recognize that, the more we can recognize this whole micro macro malarkey. The more we can recognize our place in that. You know, it used to be everything happening on the macro and we were just this micro small instigators, if you will, of things. But actually the awareness that we're building about ourselves is really creating more of an awareness of our role within the macro. So acknowledging that this week is going to be key. How are we going to do that? Well, at the bottom of the deck we have the Four of Swords. We have rest. Whether that is chosen or inflicted upon or encouraged, shall we say, in different ways. Resting so that we can go into that more still place within and allow these things, these insecurities, these wounds, these pains, this love underneath it all to rise to the surface and help us transform what is ahead of us. You can see here the butterfly on the toe. Those in reflexology will understand it's on the toe around the head space and the neck space. So anywhere where we may feel as if we're carrying a heavy load, important to rest. Anywhere where we may feel as if we're overthinking, important to rest. To allow a different clarity to come through, to allow a lighter receptivity of help to come through, but also to allow transformation of the path that we are going to walk as a result. So whatever you're going through at the moment, I know quite a few people that are poorly. I know quite a few people that are finding themselves having to wait. The country itself is in a bit of a standstill at the moment with things that want to be changed, that need to be changed. Whatever is occurring at the moment, as much as you can, find that space to rest. It's often seen as underrated. It's often seen as doing nothing and apathetic, but that's the mind. 9 times out of 10, that's the mind suggesting that we need to do something. Unless it's something different this week, my advice would be pause and allow a different perspective to come in. Clarity doesn't come from doing the same thing over and over and over. Allow some rest. Okay, so we have Monday. Is there 2 cards there? Yeah. Tuesday. Wednesday. I'm going to separate them actually. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Take your time by the end of the week. Sunday. Overall, it feels really important to separate what is going on around us, but also to separate ourselves from what is going on around us. One of the beautiful things Alan Watts talks about is when the vision is first open, when we first start to see, there can be a lot of dangers where we get so mixed up. Call it gaslighting, call it reflection, projection, whatever. We can get so mixed up with what is ours and what is others. This week it's important to separate what is going on, not ourselves. Don't separate from the self, separate from what is going on. Now that can be your mind, you can see it from different perspectives and observe it. That can be your body, but ensure that what is going on around you doesn't cause a split within you by keep coming back to what's whole, what's complete, and what's important to you. Ground into your body with determination, which is the first card that we have. It's a week of thoughts. Even though we have the Taurus full moon, which is evident at the bottom of the pack for the week overall, it's a week of mindsets. Okay, so being very aware of those thought processes, those mental loops that are going to come to the surface, and use them to help you move forward. Now, we don't often see it that way, do we? When we see mental loops, it's like something to get rid of or clear our mind or have emptiness and peace. But actually, the encouragement this week is to use these mindsets to move forward. We have the Knight of Swords. This would be the Knight of Swords, but in this deck it's determination. However, you can't see how long the race is. So ensure that the thoughts that you are running with, quite literally, are of a more long-term nature. We can't see how long the race is. We don't know how long we have for something. So ensure that it's enough to sustain you throughout the process. I'm also being shown an emphasis of last week's energy, which is the handing of the baton down through the ancestry. So ensuring that what you are running with is going to sustain those to come as well. And how long is that? No one knows. And if we can let go of the time span, if we can, and it's difficult. Hey, I get it. It's difficult. With the world being the way that it is, it's very hard to sit and watch and think that there will be no change, but change itself is a constant. So that's a confusing belief in itself. There will always be change. Getting too caught up in how long that takes makes us impatient and actually makes it take longer. Now, whether that's an illness, which I get, I have so many autoimmune problems, it's unreal. And it's taken 15 years to get to where I am now. I get it. I don't get it completely because it's your situation or the collective situation, but I can empathize. But it's going to take as long as it takes. Whether it's inconvenient to work, to your life, to how you saw things, it's going to take as long as it takes. And actually sometimes trying to push these things, especially things like childbirth or creativity, trying to push these things causes more damage. Trying to push these things, it makes us doubt our own determination and often makes it harder than it needs to be. That can be a hard truth to come to terms with, particularly on the Monday, that we may be sabotaging our own determination because we want it done quicker because we don't believe it's going to happen. Now, we can see that on the collective, but we can also take responsibility of that on the individual level as well. The other thing I'm being drawn to here, even though she's still, her arms and her feet and the whole emphasis of movement here is very fast. It's very fast. You see a lot of swiftness around the movement, even though she's quite still. So it may feel as if we're not getting anywhere, but actually, I have a cat coming up the chair. You may see her. Which one is this? Oh, yeah, it's Ronnie. She may come up. You may feel as if you're not getting anywhere. But actually, by resting, by clarifying where you're at, by changing your perception of stillness and endurance and strength in that, the change is a lot quicker. I hear faster than the speed of light. Faster than the speed of light. And the other thing I'm being drawn to here is the lines. They're not straight, even though they may look like it on this camera. They curve. This is a circle. This is a spiral. If we could get out of the masculine patriarchal mindset of linear timing, from our calendars to daylight savings time to creativity to life, if we could embrace more of a feminine approach to timing, which is cyclic in nature, there would be less pressure and emphasis on how long it takes to do something and more appreciation of the process itself, which ironically speeds it up. On the Tuesday, we almost go backwards a step because we then go back to, or it can feel like we go backwards a step, thank you. It can feel as if we go backwards a step because we go backwards to the 11 of Swords, which in this deck is the Page of Swords. And it can feel quite confusing and tied up here, quite knotted here. Back to the inner child. Why do we avoid the rest? 9 times out of 10, there's information in there that we might not want to feel or to be with. Come the Tuesday that is inner child related, how we see the world or how we once saw the world may not quite be how we wanted to see the world, and this can be happening again around us, and that's causing a not only an emotional dissonance but a rise of trauma. Whether that situation's their self repeating their self as an opportunity for completion and closure, doing what we couldn't do as a child in those situations, or whether that is just an opportunity to recognize how uncomfortable it is to see something when we don't want to see it. It is uncomfortable and we may want to placate it, we may want to change it, we may want to solve or fix it, and that's the inner child. On the Tuesday, be aware of that. Be aware where that may be affecting our ability to let things play out. Let them play out. Concentrate on your vision of yourself and your ability to do that in the center of it all. What do you need? What do you need while these things are unraveling? This card, all the knots around it, I don't know what they actually symbolize, but all the knots around it, to me, there's so many different worlds in there. So many different timelines and so many different potentials. Again, please listen to Alan Watts's video, how he talks about, yes, the dangers of perception, but also the potential of it as well. If we can get back to the inner child before he, she, they saw the world that hurt them, underneath that there will be love and imagination and hope and renewal. But we have to go back through, not through the process, but to that point in time and give ourselves what we needed then. For some it will be rest, for others it will be imagination or magic or protection or truth or love, or all of it will be acceptance. I have a cat under my feet. On the Wednesday, we then go back again. It's like an unraveling. Thank you. We're having an unraveling this week. On the Wednesday, we have the 10 of Swords, which is grief. So Monday and Tuesday, yes, mentally things could be quite interesting. Come the Wednesday, emotionally, all those feelings that we may have overthought or rationalized or tried to logically explain away will come to the surface. And it's actually on the Wednesday, which is the 5th, which is Poppy Day. Is that Poppy Day? Or is that, no, that's the 11th, isn't it? Well, whenever we have the poppy at the centre here, being watered by our own emotions, we have the peace. Yeah, the peace comes from the release, the peace of the release on the Wednesday. And yes, that may come with all the things that we have lost, that we are grieving, or that may come for the things that we are letting go, that we are grieving. So many times we have lots of plans that may not be for us for whatever reason, and if we can let them go and make space, those that are can come in. But with that is going to come grief. 9 times out of 10 it's not about letting go of the situation, but the almost insurmountable grief that we feel as a result. That may come back up on the Wednesday with that full moon. So compassion is key. I remember a few years ago walking through the poppies and getting the most incredible message. And actually it feels important for myself to acknowledge that I do talk to poppies, and I did since I was a child, and allowing myself to have that weirdness. You know, how much of our life do we push to one side because we're trying to fit in? On the Wednesday, that may come to light, and with that comes a love and a remembrance and acceptance and celebration of who we are, because 10 is the end as well, okay? But I was talking with the poppies, as you do, and the message was to remember what they signified, which was always peace. They signified peace and beauty, and I'm aware that they're worn to celebrate our veterans. My whole family were in the services. You know, my great-great-grandmother lost many sons, and it's carried on down the line. Nowadays, that is normally seen as we celebrate the war and not the peace. Thank you. Yeah. On Wednesday, the opportunity is to look at where we have held that stoicism so much that the love underneath it is unable to be expressed, and to allow ourselves that. Okay, Wednesday feels like a time to pause. It is the Taurus full moon. It feels like a time to pause, to be with the body, to really ground into what is going on for us. It almost feels like a new beginning, actually, on the Wednesday. On the Thursday, we have the Two of Swords, which is restraint. And it is the feminine. It's the feminine that's being restrained here. You can see that. And it's right across her heart, right across her chest, right across her breasts, actually. And it feels very much linked to supply and demand. You know, if you think about breastfeeding, or actually what we give, we expect to get back. And that can restrain us if it's out of balance. And it can be out of balance both ways. So we could end up giving more than we get back, and eventually not having enough for ourselves on the Thursday. Or we could end up giving nothing or holding that back and then not receiving as well. So really looking at any patterns in regards to our mental belief, particularly around boundaries, giving and receiving, and supply and demand. On an individual level, but collectively next year and into the year after, it feels like the year that's linked to justice, actually. The year after, we are really going to be shown where consumerism is out of balance, where we have bought into, or what we have bought into over the last few years, our own beliefs included, the narratives that we are creating as a result, and where we're restraining the feminine, where we're restraining creativity, imagination, intuition, growth. It's very stern, this energy on the Thursday, so be very mindful of that. I can't actually see what part is tied up. I think it's her hands, but I can't see what part is tied up here. We may not know where we're being restricted, but we'll feel it. We'll feel stern. We'll feel, yeah, there's a big difference between discernment and sternness. Be mindful of that on the Thursday. On the Friday, that brings forward the Ace of Swords, which is clarity. And now for the first time ever, it's like this diamond light. Yeah, for the first time ever. Not the first time ever, but the first time in this reading. Sorry, that feels quite important. It's not a new idea. It's not a new way of seeing things. It's not a new way of being. It's the first time that we're seeing it in this level of darkness. This is the first time in this reading this week that I've seen underneath it all the diamond light that's coming through, the diamond light body that is coming through us all, which is what it's all been about. And I do hear that very cliche, cheesy analogy of coal being crushed and crushed and crushed to form diamonds, pressure to form diamonds. I personally don't believe it has to be that way, and that's the guidance that I'm receiving. However, that's an individual thing, right? Sometimes the pressure is there just to remind us what's underneath it all, which is our own diamond, clear clarity. On the Saturday, we then have, I have to think about this one. Yes, of course, it is the King of Wands. It is the integrity card, and we have both eyes here. So there's an eye of Horus, but there's actually two. There's a healing eye and a protective eye, and they're both here. It's like both aspects have come together to see our perception for the healing ability that it has actually brings us protection. Often it can be seen as a gift or a curse, our ability to feel things, to see things, to be aware of things, but There's a middle line here, and that middle line is integrity. We may not like what we're seeing. We may be uncomfortable with what we're feeling, but it's an opportunity to align. It's an opportunity to be authentic, to be sovereign in who we are. I don't know on this card why there's a male figure and then a female figure, but let's feel into this. There's also a lion behind them, and I said last week this feels very much linked to the lion energies, very much. There's also, as I say, the Egyptian eyes. There's a lot of Egyptian energy that has been coming up, wow, since the discovery like 6-7 months ago in the collective. But we have a very mature masculinity here available to protect the more the younger, the newer feminine that is rising. And that's not to say the feminine is immature. And I feel this week, any actions, if we believe that the feminine is being immature, then that masculine isn't quite grown up enough to see what is going on. Our own actions. This is what I'm talking about, our own actions. If we feel something and we snub it off as being childlike or silly or not making sense, then our actions aren't mature enough to match the wisdom that's coming through. It's not that the feminine is being immature this week. It is new. We talk about this new world. We talk about this new earth, these new energies. It is new. As I've said before, we have never seen this level of light in this level of darkness. So it's going to take some time for our focus to adjust. We may find ourselves going back round in circles. We may want to berate ourselves for, oh my God, I've done this again. Hang on. We haven't. It's not possible to have repeated something because the circumstances have changed, and it's up to us to, from a more mature mindset, see that things are different. They are different. And that can allow us the opportunity to be more integral with where we find ourselves in that situation and the impact that we're having on that. On the Sunday, we then have the... I have to think about this. This is the Cup card because, as I say, it doesn't say the suits at the bottom. And it's nice because it's a Cup card that we have to think about. It's called imagination. If we can see imagination for our own soul's language and dreams and hopes and fears, what would our judgment on that then be? Would it be immature? Would it be silly? Or would it be something that we could create with? In this picture, it is the Page of Cups, known as imagination. And this character, again, the feminine, is wearing clothes that have yet to be coloured in. They're 3/4 of the way coloured in, and literally, as you put that in the light, you can't see the top of her and you can't see the ship in front of her. That feels really beautiful, that when you put this incompleteness in the light, there can be an almost a sensation of disappearing, of being held, of surrendering to the imagination. If you can't see the answers, if you can't see the clarity, if you can't see the version of yourself that's becoming, if you can't see the potential in this world, maybe it's an opportunity to create it, to bring colour to it, to, in the light, look at what's missing and start to create with that, not against it. To use your imagination. Yes, it's going to take more than we've done. It's going to take us being open and expanded in our mindset, in our energy. How do we feel about that, truly? Because underneath it all, the week ahead, we have the 10 of Cups and we have that full moon. She's opening to it. There's behind the integrity card on the Saturday, there's a drawn lotus that hasn't fully formed yet. But if we can stand in that integrity and use our imagination from that point, really accepting where we are and what we're creating as a result, come the full moon, there is a moment of gratitude. There is a moment of feeling all of these cycles, and throughout the week actually, but that's what this week is all about. A moment of feeling all of these cycles and showing us, for them to show us where we're still not quite clear. Without judgment, appreciation and excitement, there is room to change. We haven't got all the answers, which means there's more out there to discover, more out there to make, more out there to bring forth different ways of seeing things. That's exciting. Frightening, but exciting. It can feel very heavy as well this week, especially with the full moon. It can feel very heavy in our bodies as an opportunity to go back to that original card. Rest. Embrace the stillness. Be with the body. Acknowledge the difference between gratitude and toxic bypassing. This week feels quite important. I noticed in my own journal, I've gone from, I played the Game Changer. Those that played the Game Changer with me, one of the steps to take forward was to write down with the 9 of Cups 9 things that I'm grateful for every day. And I've been doing that for quite a long time now, and it's a lovely process at the end of the day. Yesterday it changed from I am grateful for to I love. How can you take the things that you are grateful for, the lessons, the wisdom, and find the love within it? Would you still be grateful for them? Are you being perhaps appreciative of things that are no longer sustainable for you? So overall we have, I thought we had a major arcana, but we don't. Interesting. Okay, so I thought the King of Wands was the major arcana. We may feel as if it's all about sovereignty this week. We may feel as if it's all about the royal family this week, or those in charge, or authoritarian type energies. It isn't. It's about the inner child, the inner creativity, the inner imagination. It's about our own individual part to play in this. And I did touch on that on Saturday from the reading last week, but it's going to come forward to the next Saturday. We may feel as if it's up to the world to change. There's no major arcanas here. It's all mine. And I keep looking to like double check, like I can't believe it. Yeah, the buck stops with us. There's no major arcanas here. It's minor arcanas. Recognizing our place in this first before things can start to shift. So we do have a lot of swords, as I say. It's mainly a sword week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Although now, and I have to be mindful, this could be my own wishful thinking without getting too political, but now I almost see royalty, you know, where they go into the House of Parliament and they take that big baton. I'm not into politics, but I know there is a way that the royal family can step in with our own politics and change what is going on, and I see that in my mind's eye. So that would be quite interesting come the weekend, but we'll see. What that for me on an individual level also feels like is allowing that more sovereign version of ourselves to take that baton and run the race now. When we get too caught up in our own political agenda or our own political mindsets or our own rational way of being, when we reach that point of having no clarity and not quite being able to see, allowing our sovereign self to come in and take that baton now. Because there's resistance there, guys. There is resistance there. I feel it on my own level, and I've seen it play out, that there is resistance there. And again, there's no judgment there. Do it, don't do it. But if we don't acknowledge what we're holding back from and the potential change that can bring, it may not happen, or it may happen or be perceived to happen against our will, particularly when it comes to that energy of resting. Why is it important to rest? Yes, of course, the body heals. Yes, of course, we get new information coming through. We don't know where we're at if we don't find that stillness within. Going back to that Alan Watts danger of perception, if we do not know what is ours, we've lost our power. We're under the manipulation of external energies. We can be controlled. Come back to what is yours. Rest. Pause inside. Even if you can't pause outside. It's not about stopping. That runner isn't stopping. She's still moving forward. But find that stillness and truth within you. When you rest inside, you find your own authentic self. So we do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sword cards. So even though it is a mental week, we have 6 sword cards, which is transition. 6 swords are transition in the tarot. So it's harmony here and beauty. When we think about that, if you think about under your solar plexus, right under your ribs by your solar plexus, you have a sea of tranquility. If it gets too much, if you can't see the wood through the trees this week, if it all feels a bit chaotic and the mind wants to run off with you, 2 fingers right where your ribs meet by the xiphisternum, just gently push in there and take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Try and breathe out longer than what you breathe in if you can, and just balance that sea of tranquility point within you. Find that stillness. It is a pause, it's just a breath. You know, this rest doesn't have to be an illness. It doesn't have to be long-term sick. It doesn't think you have to be an autoimmune disease. In my case, it doesn't have to be these things. It all depends on how stubborn we are. Yeah, just pause, take stock, realign, gain the clarity of your own wisdom, and then open your eyes. We then have 1 wand card, and the only emphasis this week is integrity. It is integrity. It is number 14, so there's also that temperance type energy here, and we do have the 2 eyes. So see from both angles. See from the need for protection, but also see from the need of healing. See from the need to defend your own truth and allow that to be the healing from yourself as well. See your own perspective and stand in that. We then have 2 cup cards, so we have a union here of gratitude and imagination. We have a union here of the 10 of cups and the page of cups. When we start to recognize the things we love around us, we start to feel love, which means we start to recognize ourselves because we are the love. So I love my husband desperately. He initiates, triggers, glimmers, whatever within me, the love that I am. That's not downplaying the relationships in our life or the situations around us, but they are all an opportunity to feel who we are, whether we like it or not. I'm going to leave it there. Take care, have the most incredible week, and I will see you post full moon. Take care.